Hey guys, it's Rich and Karen Oliver. We're doing another one of our little episodes where we talk a little bit about my racing career, and Karen asked me a variety of questions that I try to answer coherently. Over the years, I've done quite a few races, and I've been through quite a few experiences, and so I'm trying to get some of that out before I forget some of the details on some of these stories. So this has been a great opportunity for us to kind of just chat and go back through some of the memories that we have. So we had some questions. Do you have a question for me about injuries?
Well, yeah, we've had questions that come via some email, but also we've had some kids recently in some of our classes because we opened in May, which has been terrific. And it's kind of hard to hide scars, and so some kids ask you about your finger, and others want to know about your scar on your arm. So I thought that maybe we could talk about some of your interesting injuries and what road racing can do to a person.
Yeah, kids are pretty cute. You know, they look at you. You know, you got a cut off finger or whatever. And they go, "Oh, is it okay if we ask Mr. Oliver about his finger?" You know, they want to know the story. But we'll talk about my arm this time. So I've had some injuries, of course, ups and downs in my career. You're going to race for years and years and years like I did. You're going to go through some of that. And I want to say flat out, that I had a great run of generally healthy racing years. And none of my injuries compare to a lot of the things that some of my competitors went through and some of my friends went through. So I'm not trying to say that any of this stuff is all that serious. I'm just saying that this is what happened to me.
It's curiosity, I think,
for
some of the individuals.
Yeah, I mean, and we've all had our ups and downs, and I feel for everybody that's had a difficult injury too. So, but this story in particular is about my right arm. I got a big scar on my right arm, and that's what the kids see when I'm working with them. So they asked me what happened. So it was 2002, I think.
Yes, because we met in 2001. And then we waited a year until we saw each other again, and then you sent me the picture that you had won a race, but your arm was still.
Oh yeah. So so 2002 I was racing 250 Grand Prix AMA, Sonoma Raceway. Apparently I was lapping or in contact with somebody in the race where I clipped the back of their seat or their tailpipe or something with my handlebar, my left handlebar, going around the carousel, which if you know. Sonoma Raceway, it's a downhill left-hander. It's a famous, iconic corner. And I guess I lost the front, and I went sliding right out towards the edge of the track, and I impacted the hay bale wall that they had there, because there's like a bank that goes around the outside of this turn. So it's not, it doesn't have a lot of runoff. You have some, but it's not a lot. Anyway, so apparently I hit this, and I don't remember this because I got knocked out right after I stood up. And I went into the hay bale wall, and apparently I had my arm out or whatever, but they said that I got up and I had so much hay shoved up inside my helmet that I was like freaking out, like I couldn't breathe. And my whole helmet was stuffed with hay. I couldn't see. I had to open the visor, and I was digging hay out that it got jammed up underneath my helmet from the way I slid in backwards or something. And I didn't even know my arm was broken. Then apparently I pass out, and the next thing I know, I'm in a helicopter flying to Santa Rosa, getting airlifted out of the track. And
Yeah, you had hay fever.
I don't even know how to top that. So with this hay fever incident, I'm in the trauma center at Santa Rosa.
Which, by the way, the helicopter in Santa Rosa didn't take our health insurance.
Oh yeah,
so we have a huge afterthought of.
We have a particular health insurance company. Well, Santa Rosa, they didn't take it, so there was a price tag at the end of that we had to pay for. But anyway, so I get to the hospital.
Back to the arm.
Yeah, and now I guess I'm awake now. I remember talking to the doctor, and the doctor's like, "Well, you broke your arm. It's a compound fracture. The bones come out of your skin." And this is very similar to what happened to Ken Roxon if you follow motocross. He had a massive forearm injury, and he's made an amazing recovery from that. So I guess I had kind of the same thing. So I get in there, and he goes, "Well, are you going to go back out right away?" And I was like, "Well, I'm going to ride as soon as I can." And he goes, "Well, they make plates that have 3 holes on each side of the brake, and we'll put 6 screws in the plates, or we have ones that make 4. And he goes, I'm going to give you the ones that have 4 on each side, so you have a stronger connection there, and your arm will be stronger. So if you start using it earlier than you probably should, you're going to be, held together. So I go through the operation, and it goes fine. And this is not always the case, because if you think about it, when your injury exits your body and you're in a sweaty pair of leathers, can you imagine what's in there that you can get an infection with? And so I didn't get an infection or anything, but unfortunately the next morning I woke up and my arm had swollen up from compartment syndrome, and it had got damaged so bad that there was so much swelling pressure in there that they ended up having to cut it open further than it was already cut open. So it started out where it was, the center section here was cut open, and then since the compartment syndrome was so bad, they actually cut it from the center of my palm all the way down just at my elbow joint right there, and that opened it up and took the pressure off it.
Right.
So I'm in the hospital going, okay, now I'm really laying there with this thing open, and every couple of days over the course of a week, they start sewing it back together at the ends, the 2 ends of the incision, and the middle is still really swollen. So slowly they're closing it. So I went through operation after operation where they would sew it and clean it and everything, and then finally towards the last day they sewed the last little bit back together because the swelling had gone down enough. And so I'm there with this arm with these 16 screws and these plates in there, and I'm like, okay,
Well, you upsized like in an engine. You went from a V6 to a V8.
I got more screws, yeah. I really got screwed in this operation, so it was good. But what I was going to say is everyone goes through a moment when you're laying there and you're going, do I really want to keep doing this? And you think, okay, all the great things in racing, but then there's all this downside to it. There's the negative aspect of it. You lay in there, and I don't care who you are, you think for whether it's 10 seconds or 10 minutes, you think, am I going to keep going? And then something kicks in, and I don't know what it is, but there's this drive to say, I am coming back.
You got the fire in the belly.
And I'm coming back, and nobody and nothing is going to keep me down. If I can physically get on that motorcycle, I'm going to get on that motorcycle again. And you're saying it more to yourself than anybody else. You're trying to pump yourself up and say you can do it. And at that point in my career, I had successfully come back from a number of different injuries, but there's that time, and you kind of get like an epiphany of determination that you didn't really even know you were that aggressive about wanting to come back, and you can see that like in Ken Roxon, or you can see that in other riders who you're like, man, there's no way that guy's going to ride again.
Well, I would say in
back.
post-surgery, when you weren't even 100% healed, you went to Pikes Peak. And what'd you do?
Well, yeah, I mean,
You still were open.
So the surgeon, he's like, you got all these screws, it's strong, right?
Yeah.
So what happened was,
Compression sleeve?
well, yeah, I had a compression sleeve on it, and it was still stapled together and sewn together, I guess. I don't know. I don't remember exactly, but it didn't look that great. But I had a sleeve on it, so you couldn't really see it. And anyway, I'm out there at Pikes Peak, which was the next race, and the next race was 4 weeks later. So I get on the bike, and I'm like, man, my wrist feels really good. Mm-hmm. And for years riding the super bikes and the heavier bikes, I would get a little carpal tunnel, and I would get some numbness and tingling, right? And so I'm like, man, my hand feels like it did when I was in my 20s. And so I go out there, and I'm riding, and I'm not that good yet. I mean, I'm okay. I'm running towards the front. But I'm like, okay, this is amazing. I feel better almost in some ways than I did before I got hurt.
You got a free carpal tunnel job.
I got a free carpal tunnel job on
all because of hay fever.
All because of the hay fever. So anyway, long story short, I won the race. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you what, it's not about winning the race, right? It's about laying in the hospital bed, having a nasty looking arm, and then winning the race, and knowing that you did it and you stuck to it and you persevered. I mean, it's emotional to me to this very day that I was able to do that. And I had some great help with a lot of people on my team helping me, and of course the surgeon. My parents were up there the whole week trying to get me to come home, and they had to keep staying in a motel night after night because I kept having a longer and longer surgery. But I mean, it's one of those things where, you know, I look at it like an inspiring story instead of a you know, difficult injury, because it all worked out in the end, and I was actually better for it when it was all over.
Well, I think also too we can just translate that story of fire in the belly, and you just want to persevere even though you go down. That applies so much to what the current situation is with so many people.
Yeah.
And just keep fighting.
Keep
Just
fighting.
Keep fighting
Yeah.
back, and because you know you can do it. And we hope that all of our friends and out there with small business owners and those who lost their jobs will be back to 100% soon. So
yeah, absolutely.
I think, you know, that's just kind of, you can relate that kind of fighting spirit to many different situations.
Sports are sometimes a microcosm of life. That's right. So if you can race motorcycles, you can do a lot of other things.
On those
apparently.
days the marriage isn't so happy, you keep on fighting back.
Keep on fighting and go ride your bike, right? All right, well, that's my forearm story. Hope you enjoyed it, and hope you got something out of that for yourself. And we look forward to another episode in the near future.
Yeah.
All right, good job, huh?
Thanks.
All right.